Hi, everybody. This is Ron Richards. I'm a teacher at Plum High School in suburban Pittsburgh, former high school basketball coach, and this is Dingo Talk.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know. You wanna know. You wanna.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is former Plum basketball coach Ron Richards, now P.I.A.A. official. I'm still teaching at Plum. Coach Richards, how are you?
Good, Carlo. Great to be with you.
And I have to, for my Plum people out there, for those of you that remember this is the commander-in-chief of Richards Army. So if you never identified the face of Richards Army, there it is, right there. We went to war for this guy in the student section. I will promise you that.
This is a face for radio, not live TV, though. But
I have the same problem, but I keep putting myself on camera. That's somebody has to get that into my head. So, so Coach, we're gonna do this the way we do every week. We're gonna start Elderton High School, which is part of the Armstrong County Schools, right?
Correct.
Then you transferred to Apollo Ridge. Mm-hmm. Why did you transfer? What happened there? Why the transfer?
Well, Elderton was a really small, rural school, and so is Apollo Ridge. And the biggest reason was Elderton didn't offer football. And, I had been, I had wanted to play high school football, and we had looked at a couple of the neighboring schools at that time, Indiana, Katanning, and I actually had my aunt who was the business manager at Apollo Ridge, and decided to go to Apollo. And that was back in the day when you could do a little bit of transferring, and we had to go through the whole WPL hearing thing and all that kind of stuff, but it was basically so I could have the opportunity to play football.
So, and you graduated from Apollo Ridge in 1982? 81. So you go from Apollo to Alliance.
Right.
Why Alliance?
Well, it's actually, I did the 3 college tour. I always laugh. I went to Baldwin Wallace my freshman year. I played basketball. I always tell people, our generation, we all played football, basketball, baseball. And then if you were fortunate enough, you picked, if you were fortunate enough and you got an opportunity to play in college, then you took the, whatever your sport was. And I loved basketball, and I had the opportunity to go to Baldwin Wallace my freshman year. I loved it there. Basketball part of it, I got a little discouraged. So I decided to transfer to Alliance College, which was a NAIA school back in the day, in the same conference like today with Westminster, St. Vincent. Waynesburg was really good back then, those types of schools. And it was just an opportunity to play basketball, and I jumped on that opportunity. Now,
when you leave Alliance, do you go and play basketball at IUP as well, or is that?
No, I was done. I was done. I used up my eligibility at Alliance, and I had the opportunity to go to IUP at that time, closer back to home, and get into the coaching part of things. That was where Tom Beck, Tony Bernardi, Tom was the head coach at the time, and kind of looking at a couple different options. There were some opportunities to possibly go overseas and play at the time, but kind of started to get the coaching bug, and Coach Beck and Coach Bernardi were my first opportunity to jump into the coaching side of things.
So obviously you get into coaching for the fact that there's a pure love of the game.
Without a doubt.
Is that the only thing that factored in, or was it more or less wanting to be around you weren't ready to walk away from being around the game, so then coaching became the obvious next choice?
Yeah, I would say, for me, basketball, was, that was kind of my everything as a kid. Everybody talks about, where's their favorite place to be. For me, it's always been the gym or outside on a court. And I wasn't quite sure when I was done playing if coaching was going to be in my future, but I knew I wanted to at least explore that. And once I did jump into that and get the opportunity at IUP, I was hooked. I knew that's what I wanted to do from that moment moving forward. It was just a matter of, was I going to go the college route and continue down that road, or work my way into the high school ranks? And eventually it was the high school ranks, and it worked out great for me.
Well, in 23 years you ended up coaching, correct?
Yeah, as a head coach. Yep.
Now, before the 17 years at Plum, out of IUP, where was your next coaching job?
done at IUP, and then I did a JV coaching. Was a JV coach at Purchase Line High School, where I did my student teaching. From there, I worked with Paul Holshoe at Franklin Regional as Paul's JV coach, and then was lucky got my first head coaching job at Armstrong High School. It was the original merger of Armstrong, Katanning, Ford City, and East Brady. Unfortunately, it only lasted 2 years, the merger. I was there for the second year of it. Went to Apollo Ridge for a couple years as the head coach there, back to where I graduated from. And then we were very fortunate there, had some success there, and got offered the job at Redland High School in District 3 in right near Harrisburg. And then came to Plum in the 98-99 school year was my first year at Plum.
Now, how would you describe yourself as a coach? What are the strengths that you have? Let's go with your strengths. What are the strengths that you feel you have had as a coach? I don't have, you're still a coach.
I would say, I like to think that my work ethic, we certainly put the time in. I was always drawn to schools that didn't have success. I never took, I had opportunities, every place I had been, including, a few different times at Plum, probably to take jobs that would have been a lot easier. But I liked the challenge. I liked to go places where they hadn't had a whole lot of success and see if we could turn things around. So I would say my strengths were, work ethic, put the time in, always willing to continue to learn. I thought, I would try new things. I mean, we had a basis and foundation for what we like to teach, at each of the schools that I was at, but I was always trying to, go to clinics, go to people's practices, take our staffs to all the local college practices. We'd go to clinics, constantly trying to learn more. So I think, adapting to the, year in and year out to the type of team that you'd have in high school, because you can't recruit. And I think those were probably the strengths for the most part.
Now, I understand the coaching side. Was teaching always the goal as well? Were you always going to kind of go down that road of wanting to be a teacher?
Yeah, I think so, because I think, once I started working with, high school age, kids, I liked them. And probably, the most influential people I had in my life were my teachers and my coaches in my life. Those were the people that, I spent the most time with, outside of my mom. But they had big influences on my life. And I just thought that was something that I wanted to be, that I would want to do. I thought I could do a good job at it and maybe impact, young people. And that's why I chose the profession. I'm retiring in 5 weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's been a really rewarding experience, both teaching and coaching, for sure.
So I got to say, I guess in 5 weeks, if we need to get a hold of you, we catch you on the golf course or in a pit game somewhere.
Yeah. If it ever quits raining, yes, I will absolutely be on the golf course. The weather's driving me crazy, but yeah, I've always told people, even when I got done with coaching people, I would always ask, well, what are you going to do next? And I always would tell them, I'm not real hard to find. It's a pretty good chance it's a golf course, it's a pit game, or maybe at a casino. Those two, pretty predictable.
So I kind of prepped you for this right before we went on. I'm going to ask you, in your coaching career, are there 3 coaches that you loved coaching against, that you had a not necessarily just a great relationship, but you just enjoyed coaching against them? And are there 3 guys that maybe if you never had to see them, if you coach again, you never had to see them again on the coaching side, that you wouldn't do it?
Yeah, that's such a tough question, because, it's, I think one of the neat things about coaching in Western Pennsylvania is that, most of us who've done it for a long period of time all kind of know each other. There's a group of us that all, grew up together and coached together. I would say probably 3 of my favorites would be, that are all my age group. Bill Swan from Hempfield. He's still doing it. He's a dear friend. Danny Holzer from Upper St. Clair. Danny and I went to Alliance together. Danny, we basically were roommates for years up there. And, Tim McConnell, and, is certainly one of those guys that, we didn't get to play against each other a whole lot, but Tim and I played basketball against each other in college, played at Pauline Park pick up games for years, and just became good friends through the years of coaching. I'd say the toughest ones, we always had just wars with Central Catholic. Chuck Rummy and I would always butt heads, but Chuck and I became, I consider Chuck a friend. And once we got to know each other, certainly he's another person I have a great deal of respect for. Mark Jula was one of the toughest guys to ever coach against. My first year at Armstrong, he was the head coach at Butler, and I had a tremendous amount of respect for him. His teams were tough. We kind of actually, we modeled our program at Plum over, kind of after his Butler teams during that time period. And that's kind of it. I just enjoyed the competition. The tougher guys to coach against, kind of, the better I liked it.
Which kind of falls in for you. You didn't like the easy route. You wanted you wanted the challenge. You want that to know that you put the work in, and now look, here's the result.
Yeah, that was it. I always tell people, our years at Plum, we didn't win a WPL championship. We didn't win a state championship, which is always a regret, because I do think we had a couple teams that were, capable of that and close to that. But, when you're in the same section with, the Penn Hills, Woodland Hills, Centrals, Gateways, Fox Chapels, McKee Sports, that, Franklin Regionals, the schools that we traditionally were in with, and those were grinds. Those were challenges every single night. I mean, you kind of relish that as a competitor, and that was kind of why I chose Plum. I liked the idea of trying to build a program at Plum that could be competitive with those types of schools when, quite honestly, they had not had a whole lot of success in their years past, and that was kind of fun to do, to see our kids have success against those types of schools.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the conference or the section that Plum was in during your time was almost a glorified WPIAL playoff, because of the amount of competition that you were going. Tuesdays might be Franklin Regional at Plum. Friday would be Penn Hills at Penn Hills. I mean, you're talking teams that are 10 minutes away from each other. Every sport you're involved in. So that rivalry and there wasn't a team in the section that wasn't a rival. I mean, when it came to football, basketball, and baseball, the major schools it was the same guys. You just saw them in a different uniform for the different sport.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, that's kind of I think that's one of the things that I feel bad for the kids today, especially since they went to 6 classifications here, and they've kind of got away from some of those. You made a good point. We were, I think our longest trip was McKeesport. Basically, everything else was on a bus for 10, 15 minutes, and you were there, and the crowds were big. The atmosphere was good, and you're right, just had that little neighborhood rivalry, and it's not quite like that now, but because the sections have changed, classifications have changed, and people are kind of bouncing all over the place. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was tough, but it was a lot of fun.
Now, over your time at Plum, is there a group of players that stand out to you? Is there a team that stands out to you?
There's several. It's funny. I think I got asked, a few days ago. It wasn't a couple of weeks ago that they said, who's your best 5? And I laughed. I said, I have no idea. I said, but once I started thinking about that, I said, I would put our 5 in the 17 years that we had up against pretty much anybody's 5, maybe with the exception of the Shenley team with DJ Kennedy, DeJuan Blair, and we'll not go there, but that
team's a whole different. That's a whole different animal.
We're not going down that route. We'll be realistic there, but our problem was we never had our 5 on the same team. They were always 4 or 5 years apart. But when you go down, we had Nolan Kressler, who played at Vanderbilt, Mike McKee, who played at Kent. And I'm not talking played. I'm talking started on these teams and played on NCAA tournament teams. Carlo DeRazio played on the Pitt Big East teams. James Edwards just got done at the Air Force Academy in the Mountain West. Then you don't even talk about the Bobby Franklins, the John Cooks, the Matt Magnusons, and I'm probably forgetting, several over the 2010 team that we had that won the section title. That you ask about that's one of my favorite teams I've ever coached, because they weren't supposed to win.
No.
And that was the smartest basketball team that I've ever coached in my life. We won 18, we were 18-4 and won the section championship, and we probably won 16 of those games that were 1 to 2 possession games that we just always won because the kids were so smart. So it was, we had so many good kids, so many good teams that, the memories are, as you get older. I've never been one of those reflective type of people. I always had my eyes looking forward, but now, as I'm getting close to being, retiring also from teaching, you do tend to look back a little bit now. And, boy, we had some special kids. And I just got done having this conversation with my sister was up visiting this weekend. We were talking about basketball. And I said, it's amazing to me that kids from Plum, you name any, historical gym in the United States on the collegiate level, whether it's Poly Pavilion, Cameron, the Dean Dome, Rupp Arena, Madison Square Garden, Fog Allen Field, or whatever. A kid from Plum has played in those gyms, and that to me says everything. That our kids got the experience to chase their dreams through a sport that I love, and that to me that's the best part of all of it.
And then the last question before we wrap up the coaching side of Coach Richards. So you hosted camps yearly when you were coaching. What was the goal so you had youth camps and you had the older kids camps. What was the goal when you had the youth kids in versus when you had the guys that were maybe, middle schoolers getting ready to jump into that, what high school basketball really becomes?
Well, for the young kids, we'd have them there in the summer all the time. It was always about, first of all, you want them to like the game and enjoy the game. So you want to make it fun so that they'll come back and have a positive experience. But then, you want to start teaching them skills, skills and fun. We spent countless amount of hours developing skills and fundamentals at Plum because we kind of knew at Plum we were never going to have an abundance of players like some of those other schools that we had to compete against. So we had to be really, really skilled. So we focused, on that. And it's kind of as they got older and kind of progressed through the program through the elementary years to the junior high years, we just would kind of add on to that skill set, and just try to develop and as they went through. And I think that's one of the things that we did do a really good job of at our school was developing those kids' skill sets through the years. If you put the time in and you came to our off-season workouts, you were going to get better. And I think that was, reflective in how many kids we went, had played college basketball, not just on Division I level, but, through Division II and Division III. I mean, we had well over 20 play, some sort of college because they had the skill set to do it.
Well, Coach, we've come to that time. We got to take a break. I got to send it to the only store in Bethany, West Virginia, Chambers General Store. If they don't have it, you don't need it. It's on the back of a t-shirt. If you're in Bethany, you can get that t-shirt. If you're not in Bethany, go to their Facebook page. They have a phone number, and I believe you can order it directly from the Facebook page. They also have daily lunch specials, soups of the day. He'll make you a cold cut. And if you're doing a home improvement project, you can buy the saw, the screws, the hammers, everything you need right above the deli. This is Coach Ron Richards, now about to be retired and living the good life and relaxing. We're going to take a break. I'm Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk, and we will be right back.
You're watching another exciting episode of Dingo Talk, recorded deep in the hidden lair in Bethany, West Virginia, where when you visit, make sure you stop by Chambers General Store. Grab one of our hot breakfast sandwiches made fresh all day. Don't forget the biscuits and gravy or one of the daily lunch specials. And if none of that trips your trigger, cold cut sub sandwiches and wraps made fresh all day to your order. Hey, and don't be the only alumni on the block that doesn't have the Chambers. If we don't have it, you don't need it t-shirt or the latest edition of the Bethany, West Virginia shroom capital of the world in the psychedelic green. Hey, now back to you, Carlo.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest, Ron Richards, now P.I.A.A. official and getting ready to retire, former Plum head basketball coach. Coach, so as I pointed out, you are the former coach at Plum. What led into, so you walk away from coaching, what led into wanting to become an official?
Well, that's been one of the questions I've been asked several times since I did that, because I don't think anyone saw that coming, nor did I, to be honest with you. I got out of coaching in 2017 at a relatively young age. Yeah, but it was just one of those deals. I kind of knew that, I was ready to be done, but I wanted to do something else. And I always tell people, and it sounds like I'm making fun of myself, and it kind of is. I needed to keep busy in the winter, because I have never had a winter off, because I've literally been involved in the game of basketball since I was a little kid. And with all that said, I have an extremely limited skill set. So, I started to think, all right, well, what am I going to do? And, I started thinking about being a basketball official. One, it keeps me busy in the winter. Two, I feel like I do understand the game. I like to be active. And I have a great appreciation for how much time the coaches and players put into it. So I thought, well, let's give it a shot. If I'm good enough to do it, I'll do it. If I'm awful at it, I will step aside immediately. And kind of how I got involved in it.
So, knowing your coaching style and some of the infamous verbal battles that you had with officials, has there ever been, since you started officiating, has that shoe gone on the other foot a little bit, where a coach just is in your ear the whole game and you're just kind of like, all right, coach, I heard you.
Yes, but I get a lot more of, now, Ron, if you were still coaching, you'd be upset with this. I get that from a lot of coaches. I'll have them say to me, well, what would you have done in this situation? I kind of just laugh and I say, well, whatever I would have done in this situation, you would be very wise to do the opposite of what because I was hard on officials. Anybody who knows me knows, understands that. But what I will say is that, first of all, a lot of the officials that I had run-ins with, I've worked with now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been amazing to me how receptive and open they were to helping me out when I jumped into this, because, I told them, don't cut me any breaks, don't move me along at a pace that you think I'm ready for. Don't give me any special attention, because, I can tell you this, just because you played, coached, or did whatever your basketball background is, does not guarantee that you are going to be a good official. And whatever you think you know about basketball as a coach, you'll find out quickly when you become an official, you really didn't know as much as you thought you did. And I found that out quickly. But most of my interaction with coaches has been really good, because I understand what how much time they put into it, and I'm respectful of that. And certainly I think I have a lot of patience as an official, because you're going to have to cross multiple lines for me to reprimand you, because I get it, would be the best way to describe it.
You understand the passion that's behind the emotion of the game.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, you're not only officiating basketball games now. You've got to the point you're now officiating lacrosse. You're doing some other things.
Yep. Have a girls lacrosse game today at 4:00.
Why the expansion into other sports? Just wanting to continue to be an official, and that helps improve being an official, or is it?
Well, actually, it's a little bit of both. The big problem is they don't have enough officials anymore. The same guys that got me into basketball also do girls lacrosse, and they, 2 years ago, they said to me, hey, why don't you look into this? We really need officials. It's a fun sport to officiate. Give it a shot. And I told them, listen, I don't know anything about lacrosse, and I'm not going to do something, because I respect what the girls do, and same with the coaches, that I'm not going to put myself out there in a position of not being knowledgeable enough that it's not fair to the kids. So I, went through the process, trained, did all the tests, learned as much as I could about it. And then I again told the assigners the same way, listen, do not put me out there till I'm ready. And it's been awesome. The girls are great. The coaches are great. The sport's fun. They need officials. you just don't see many young officials anymore in any of the sports because a lot of people, one, don't have the time to do it, and probably another thing is they don't have the, they just don't want to deal with some of the things that come with it. You have to be fairly thick-skinned, I would say, and I don't know how many young people right now are willing to or have that type of background that they're equipped to handle that. So it's just something else to do to keep active, stay busy. I'm not good with downtime, so that's probably the main reason why I'm doing that.
Now, you answered my. I was going to ask you, what do you think led into the drop in officials, but you covered that. You announced that in 5 weeks you're getting ready to end your teaching career as well and retire. Why now? What factored into this is now the time that I'm just gonna it's time to wrap it up?
Well, I've been doing it for 33 years. We're lucky enough. Right now we're healthy. My wife teaches at North Allegheny. She has a couple more years left. That's kind of the dream scenario. She has to work a few more years while I'm retired. But honestly, it's kind of the same reason why I got out of coaching when I did, because, there's other things I want to enjoy in my life. I always, I don't want to sound like, the old man that I actually am, but there are a lot of things I would like to do, with my life. And I don't want to wake up and be 80 and say, I never took the time to do those types of things. So, it's why I gave up coaching when I did, because I wanted to have my summers a little bit more free, because I literally spent my entire summers for all my life coaching basketball. And I wanted to go on some trips. I wanted to go on golf trips with my buddies. I always had to pass on those before. And it's kind of where I am with teaching now. I have plenty of years in. It's just time to go experience some other things while I'm still young enough to enjoy it.
As a fan, you got to watch this fall. You were at the ACC championship game. You were at the bowl game, correct?
Yep.
What did you feel from a fan's point of view was special about this Pitt team?
It was
minus Kenny Pickett and the fake slide or whatever you want to call that. But
I am a self-proclaimed Pitt diehard. There's not many of us, and that ACC championship game was 40 years of frustration finally going out the window. It was kind of funny, even when they had the Gary Hallett's pick six, was the first time everybody in the stadium still all looked at each other and felt like this is actually going to happen. Even when they went up, I think by 2 scores or even 3 scores, everyone late in the third quarter, being a Pitt fan, I said it's always like being a Penguin Pitt fan before they won the Stanley Cups. You just still figured you still knew there was a scenario in your head that they could still lose this.
Yes.
And that night was just a lot of fun. And there were so many Pitt fans down there, and to see as a Pitt fan, so many people enjoying that moment, and especially the players. We were lucky enough to be on the field after the game, and hang out with them and just see the sheer joy in the coaching staff and the players and the support staff. It was just a good day for a Pitt fan.
So I guess that you're not in the camp that Kenny Pickett's hands are too small to play quarterback, huh?
No, Kenny Pickett is. I think Kenny Pickett is going to be a very good pro. And I've been on the Kenny Pickett bandwagon. At a very his from the get-go. I know he had some struggles there. But he didn't have a whole lot around him the first couple of years. The kid took a beating. Always got. I mean, people don't realize the beating that kid took. Couple that's his sophomore year, even his junior year. But
yeah,
he's a competitor. I put it this way. You would lose a lot of money betting against Kenny Pickett.
So to the sport that you were involved in, and I just want to get your perspective. So the transfer portal obviously going on in the college sports world. Do you think that factors into why Pitt's basketball team has struggled lately? Is because and you pointed out the thick skin thing for kids and athletes now. Do you think that maybe factors in, is maybe Jeff Capel has a little bit of an older style of coaching, and that's why we're seeing this every year, it seems, mass exodus from people?
I mean, I don't know how they do it. I have several, I have several friends that, still coach in college, and it's the portal's nuts. I don't know how they do it. I mean, you basically have to re-recruit your team every year. I'm sure there's tampering that goes on. You don't, I don't think people understand just how deep this goes, because the portal has opened up just a big can of worms. Now, I do think it's a good idea. Like, I mean, the idea behind it, like, listen, if you're stuck behind something, like Joe Burrow's a great situation. There's a kid that, was stuck behind somebody, goes to LSU, works out perfectly for him. But what you don't hear about are the kids who put themselves into the portal, and then you never hear from them again, or can't find, and they're giving up that scholarship. And then it just doesn't quite work out for them. Then you take it even a step further, and the high school kids, there's fewer scholarships available for these high school kids now, because so many of these schools are recruiting portal kids, because they have something on film playing against, that type of level. So the trickle down to that, I don't know how they do it. And to answer your question, it does make it, easily accessible to, if things aren't going well, you have to, you have an easy out. I was reading a quote yesterday, like somebody was talking, Tom Izzo was talking about something Clark Kellogg had said about, development, or he was talking about planting a flower, and it needs a little bit of water, needs a little bit of sun, meaning it's not always going to be great, to get to that end game, or to get where you might get to, you're going to have to face some adversity. And if you just give everybody an out, at the first sign of adversity, what are you teaching?
Yeah, you're teaching them that if this doesn't work out for you, you can leave and go somewhere else, and it might. And that
Right.
you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the amount of Joe Burrows that have been successful in the portal is probably, I'm sure that number is way less than the probably 500-600 kids a year that go into that portal that you never hear about again. I mean, they just kind of fizzle out, or they don't go anywhere. I mean, they end up at an IUP, at a Clarion, or somewhere like that, because the scholarships aren't there, or it just didn't work out.
Yeah, no, you hit it on the head there, that the people that actually never get the scholarship again, they get some bad advice, they jump in the portal, all of a sudden, guess what? There's nothing there for me, and people don't look at that. Check the portal for football in August, and see the kids that all have put their name in there, and see how many are there, or like you said, had to transfer down. And, when you start going to the Division II level, that's the area that you mentioned IUP, the head football coach and head basketball coach at IUP are both very, very good friends of mine. Those are not fully funded programs.
No.
They have scholarships, but it's not too many of those kids that are on full scholarship,
Well, and you brought up an interesting point about the tampering side of it. We've almost opened that whole can of worms at the same time, because now with the I think it's the NILs, right? You're allowed to name and image licensing and all that. And you have these people, you have college kids that are getting millions of dollars, well, maybe not millions of dollars, but they're getting sponsored, they're getting money in a whole league, doesn't matter what sport you're talking about, that, and I'll bring up the name that pops to my head every time I think of this, Reggie Bush. You took a Heisman away from a guy because his parents lived in a house that was paid for by an alumni. And now that's an accepted thing, but he's not he doesn't get his Heisman back. Nobody before gets there. I bet you SMU probably feels a certain type of way about being able to pay people to come to school as well.
Yeah. Or one of our Western Pennsylvania's one of the best athletes I've ever seen in my years, Terrell Pryor at Ohio State. Terrell is, I mean, I never saw anybody as gifted as him in multiple sports. And that, I feel bad for the kid. He's basically a villain in Columbus now. And, today he would be the tattoo thing.
Yeah. It wouldn't even be a story.
Really, right. Selling some memorabilia. Are you kidding me? I don't get it. I'm happy for the kids, but they have to figure out a way somehow to regulate it.
Yeah.
Or as college, the Power Five that however they refer to it, there's going to be some major changes in this in the next less than 5 years, because the new TV contracts coming up with the Big Ten and ACC. I mean, Big Ten and SEC. Those are going to be real game changers.
Yeah. So we talked about the divisions and the differences. As someone that's dealt with students, if a student came to you and said, I want to keep playing basketball in college, or I want to play football, or I want to play baseball, and maybe they're realistic in their minds, like I clearly am not going to go D1. Why should they continue to still look at Division II, Division III, NAIA? What is the draw to a smaller school like that? Because obviously, like you said, the programs aren't fully funded. There's not as much money there to help with the education side.
That's a great question, but and I think the first thing is, if you have a passion for that sport, go do it. You're only going to get 4 more years to play it. You're going to work the rest of your life. If you're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to play a sport that you love for another 4 years, that's great, because you are in the overwhelming minority of individuals that are even capable of doing that, regardless of what level you're playing at, Division III or Division II. And those are special athletes. Those kids, it's just important to them as it is for the Division I athlete. Okay. And I think, when we would take our players, on a visit, and a lot of times I would go with them, on that level, the first thing I'd always advise the kid is, listen, take a look around and ask yourself the question, if in a year from now, if I'm no longer playing this sport, would I still go to this school? If the answer to that question is yes, then that's where you want to go, because the Division III level and even the Division II level, the academic rigors are, they're legitimate. You don't have the same type of support staff that you have on the Division I level at a lot of those places. And, especially at the Division III level, you're going to be taking some courses and you're going to be challenged. It's going to be tough to balance those two things. And I think that's why a lot of times you'll see on the Division III level, especially, they'll recruit fairly large classes in each sport, because they know there's going to be attrition over the years, because kids are going to get in there and decide, you know what, after weighing the academic load versus the athletic side of things, maybe let's focus a little bit more on the academic side of things. And that's why you see typically through the years in Division III, if they bring in 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 freshmen, which, that'll happen a lot,
Mm-hmm.
You might be lucky to have 3 of them by the time they're seniors. And
when you get to senior day, you're seeing 3 guys come out, maybe, and one of those guys is more than likely, or more often than not, one of those guys either got hurt and ended up, that's how they were allowed to finish out their time because it was unforeseen, or they stuck it out, but the turnover in coaches as well. I mean, that's right. And that's something we see highlighted at the major level when, you get recruited by a coach, but then another job comes along and that coach leaves. What does that do for the player? Because you were recruited by that guy or that girl. Right. So lastly, we're going to say congratulations on your retirement. Enjoy. Maybe this summer I'll get you down to Morgantown, or we'll get you somewhere. We'll meet up. We'll get on the golf course together. Maybe I'll bring Emmerich and Plunkett. We can have an old Plum reunion. Yes, I would enjoy that. That would be great. This has been Ron Richards, history teacher. History at Plum High School. Former Plum basketball coach, now P.I.A.A. official. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and iHeartRadio. All you have to do is type in DingoTalk. Also on YouTube, you can see this interview. We're here every Thursday. Coach, one last time, thank you for stopping by and taking time out of your day. Good luck today at the game at 4. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. I did as well. So we'll see you next week, Chuckleheads, 10 a.m. on YouTube. Check next week. You want to know by now. You want to know by now. You want to know by now.